everyone to Author's Corner, the series where we showcase authors and great minds that have decided to invest time in documenting their thoughts and moving the world forward. This show is presented to you by Caris Publishing. And today on my show is guest Mr. Joel Francis. Welcome today. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much, Mr.
Yes,
Umesiri. How are
yes.
you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. So I'm looking forward to you sharing your background, your thoughts in terms of your book as well. So go ahead and introduce yourself and also just the name of your book and what brought you to writing this book.
Well, my name is Joel Francis. I live in Ontario, Canada. Um, I I have a I studied at the University of Toronto. I studied statistics, economics, and mathematics. So, although writing wasn't something I studied a lot,
Mm-hmm.
um, I did start writing my book in university while um, completing my degree. Although I took a long break, I started it and took a long break and then continued after graduating, sometime after graduating. Um, yeah, I was born into a Bible believing Christian family, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
thankful that for this, yeah, that God gave me my parents and gave me to my parents and for my older brother as well, and for their relatives as well who have taught me about Jesus and to read the Bible and to understand it. And yes, I know that it's, I mean, there are people who aren't as fortunate as I am.
Mm,
Yes, so I'm very glad, I'm
great.
thankful. And I just, what inspired me to write my book, I guess one of the things that inspired me was going to a Catholic high school
Mm-hmm.
and how they didn't take the Bible very seriously. Although they didn't say they don't believe it, they talk about not taking it literally, taking it critically. But
Mm-hmm.
in reality, they just don't take it very seriously at all. And like that was one of the things that inspired me to write my book. And it's not just Catholics; it's many Christians today. They
Mm,
don't read the Bible, and even when they do, they either misinterpret it on purpose or
mm.
ignore it or say things times have changed and
Yeah.
the culture back then. So
Wow.
yeah,
I already see two things we share in common, maybe even three things. So you talked about mathematics. Is it BSc mathematics or MS?
yes,
Okay,
yes,
I also have a BSc mathematical
mm,
science. So that's quite interesting. The second thing you talked about going to a Catholic school. You
yeah,
said Catholic high school.
yeah,
I actually went to a Catholic elementary school, right?
um,
So that's quite interesting. And then maybe thought being a Christian, and I definitely appreciate you calling out in terms of um what religion people say they belong to, and does that translate into the daily life, right, in terms of spiritual practices, right, religious belief system. You may say you believe something, but how do you live it out, right? Would people experience your belief system when they engage you too? So
yeah,
I'm definitely understanding what you mean by that. You may go to a school that says it's a Catholic school, but do they really practice it in actual fact?
mm.
That's to be determined. So fantastic. So let me also ask you, so the book, what's in the book? What should people expect, right? And who are the types of people that you would say you've written the book for? And also say the title again, and then let people also understand that this work that you've dedicated yourself to giving back to, because it's not easy, right? One of the reasons we're doing this showcase is that it does take a whole lot of focus, dedication, to write a book, to release a book, to publish a book, and then to watch the world enjoy your creation as well. So congratulations on getting that out to the world. But who have you written it for, and then what should people expect when they pick up your book?
So the title of my book is Zebedee's Calling: A Hero's Quest for the Word, and it's written primarily for Christians. I hope Christians of all denominations read it, honestly.
Mhm.
Um, and well, I like of course, we're all in different stages in our spiritual growth, and I hope it can would encourage anyone who reads it, young or old, like physically old, physically young, spiritually old, spiritually young. Um, I hope it would encourage anyone, and especially those who don't think it's important to read the Bible today. I hope they realize how important it is.
Right.
It's a Christian historical fiction novel. The main story takes place in the 11th century. It has real kings and other rulers and real events like battles in it, but the main plot is fiction and the main characters are fictional. Um, so the main characters they discover what the Bible really teaches,
Mm.
and they strive to tell others about it. And eventually, well, there are Bible translations in English in the story, so people in England, because it takes place in England, could understand,
Mhm.
could hear the Bible in English. Because back then, the in the Roman churches, they only read it in Latin in the West and in
Mhm.
Greek in the East, and most people didn't understand Latin or Greek. So most people couldn't understand what was being read from the Bible when they went to church. So I mean, they weren't being taught much at all, right? Uh,
Right.
so yeah.
So you've written it as a fun book, going into history, and also setting it as a fictional story, so it's enjoyable. And so that's creative of you to really embed a unique storyline, a unique you know message in history, and then enlightening people through that. So that's quite creative, right? So definitely, I'm just fascinated by the way your mind. So do you have any background in history? What made you go down, into writing a book that really covers history? You must have had to do a lot of research
Yeah,
to be able
I
to do that.
I did do a lot of research. I've always loved history as far as I remember, especially medieval history and ancient. Well, not too ancient because not everything you learn in history is accurate,
Mm-hmm.
but from recorded history, from what we know, I really enjoy it. And I remember in grade four, we were learning about the medieval times, and all of this book takes place in the medieval times. So, yeah, I like history, and I especially like Christian history and the history of the church. And I think in grade nine, I came to know about Bible believing Christians pre existing Martin Luther. Like I guess after Constantine, but before Martin Luther posted his 95 thesis on a door in a church in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess since then I've been thinking about it, and um, yeah, yeah, and yes, of course, a lot of research was involved. Yeah,
Absolutely.
may,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure if I may have spent more time doing research and writing. I'm not sure. Yeah,
No, that's really good, because again, it takes a lot of dedication. I don't think non-authors realize what it actually takes for us to put books out there, and also the courage to put your work out there, and then to see the effect or the impact it's having on other people's life. Because I did read some of the reviews, like, people are quite fascinated by the way you've written the book, the research you did, and how believable and all of that the fictional story is, and how enjoyable it is. So that's really a lot of hard work. You talked about Bible believing Christians, and in a way, that phrase in of itself is quite fascinating. Is that, are there Christians that do not believe in the Bible? Right? It's just to show that in today's world, and I would love to hear your feedback on that. Is, what are you finding, whether within the youth, within the churches, in terms of, are people moving away from the Bible? What's your experience like in terms of those who profess that they're Christians, when you use the phrase Bible believing Christians, um, is there any other option to be a Christian and not be Bible believing? So I'd just love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, of course, we know the Bible is true, and all of it is completely true. Although the Bible doesn't say you have to believe everything in the Bible
Mm,
to be saved,
mm,
but I guess maybe that's why some people don't believe it. But of
mm,
course, if you don't get your beliefs from the Bible, where do you get it from? Like, if you
mm,
think only some of it is true or most of it is true, then you start picking and choosing what you want to believe.
mm.
And we know that God loves us and He wants to reveal Himself to us. He did reveal Himself to us,
Yes.
right? So, of course, why would we assume that the Bible is anything but perfect,
Mm,
right?
mm. A
So,
perfect message. At least a perfect message delivered through humans, right?
yeah.
Fantastic. I love that. So, in your world as well, as you continue to you offer the book, get more readers, accessing your book, and people can access the book on Carrie's publishing website as well, and on Amazon and everywhere major books are sold as well. So what are you, I do you feel fulfilled that it's doing exactly what you want you to do? And also, do you see yourself writing more books, maybe sequel? Are you creating like a sequel? Like, where do you want to take this, as what's the next step? What does it look like for you?
Um, well, I definitely, I already have started writing another book. So yes, I
Yay,
do plan to write.
congratulations.
Thank you. I do plan to write more books. As for sequels with, I suppose, different characters, but
Mm,
yeah, I plan to include sequels write sequels in the future. But
mhm.
right now, I'm not working on a sequel. I'm working on a different, totally different story. Um, yeah,
That's interesting. In the world today, when we talk about AI, blockchain, right, all of these things, it's interesting to see if your characters will be able to go into the future of AI and think about Christians, right? How would they live in the future? How would they handle the message of the gospel? What would their lives look like? So I think I think that way as well, in terms of just the sense of possibility about where's the world going, and
mm,
how are Christians, what does that influence look like? Because one of the things I used to say, like, before COVID, because I have a technology background, math background as well. Before COVID, right, one of the things I observed, particularly when it comes to youth evangelism, all of that, was that people were already, online, right? The world moved into the online space, and many churches and many, faith-based entities, institutions, they were late to the game, if we're just going to say it, right, in terms of the technology skills, or in terms of taking the gospel online. I mean, the world is thankful. We're thankful for, the digital Bibles, YouVersion, all of those entities, right, which really helped, you know, people be able to access the Bible on the cell phones and connecting digitally, right? So
yeah,
that was one of the things I would say was a positive from COVID, where it's literally, right, made Christians adopt technology and create channels and messages on YouTube, on social media, meaning taking the gospel to where people are going or where people are at, right? Before COVID, I did not see a lot of churches prioritize online presence. I
mm,
didn't see them have church online, because really the trend was already saying the youth were spending more time on Instagram, on TikTok, on all of these things. So I think, the shutdown really, really got even the church really prioritizing their presence online. Now, where does that stand today? Is it still being seriously prioritized? I think in a little bit, but I feel like, at least this is my opinion, that several people are trying to take the world back to pre-COVID, to say in person, which is fantastic. But I think the future is going to be hybrid. You're going to need to, seriously, take online presence as seriously as you put into physical spaces. That's just my thoughts and opinion from what I'm seeing, is that hybrid omnipresent strategy. And for me, in the business world, coming from the business world, that's the strategy the business world is also adopting, in terms of not ignoring or undermining or minimizing online, but also prioritizing both at the same time. So what are your thoughts in terms of online? What happened with COVID? Christian faith, Bible, religion. What did you observe? What are your thoughts on that?
Um, well, it's good that they adopted technology and started broadcasting their sermons so that people could still participate, like in singing together at the same time,
Mm,
praising and worshiping God together at the same time, even if they don't see each other, and
mm,
hearing the sermon from the pastor.
mhm.
Um, but I do think it's important when you can to go in person. I think fellowship
Absolutely.
is very important, and
Yes.
encouraging each other and hearing others also praise and worship God with you, like
Hmm.
many others. And so, and Paul talks about not stopping gathering together in person.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Like prioritizing in person, keeping that going. And typically, most churches maybe meet 2, 3 times in person every week, right? But I think the incredible value that online gives is church 247. You can access
hmm,
content resources when you're in the kitchen, whether you're driving, when you're picking the kids up, because many people are living right busy lives.
yeah,
So I think definitely the in person is the most important. But what I've also seen is that, to your point around Bible believing Christians, is that many people before the online presence only did church on Sunday, maybe Friday, maybe Wednesday, and that was it, right?
hmm,
In terms of you talking about who reads the Bible, who studies the Bible, who actually creates time to dedicate time to, right? Studying the Bible. And
yeah,
what time do they allocate to studying the Bible? Is it just Sunday, an hour, 2 hours, and a few hours here and there during the week? I think what online allows for is that there's really no excuse now. You can access it 8 a.m., you can
yeah,
access it anytime you want. And that's what I say, like you know, prolification of incredible amounts of sermons and resources, the abundance of it. It doesn't have any time boundary. It doesn't have any space boundary. You could be in Africa, you could be in Europe, you could be anywhere and access any type of content that the church has put online, from YouTube, as example.
yeah,
So literally, what I also see is that people now, yes, in person, do church in physical. Nothing replaces physical experience of the spiritual practice, right? But now, and I think we need this more than ever, every moment of your waking time, you can tune in to the word of God, to the to the Bible, to content that is inspirational, motivational, spiritual, to really nourish yourself without having to wait for the Sunday, right? Every
yeah,
Sunday. So that's what I mean by not prioritizing one over the other, for
hmm,
people and believers to also see the power, the impact, the daily discipline of spiritual practices that people now can go on their cell phone, right?
hmm,
Read the Bible verse. They can go online, tune into a couple of sermons, right? They can
yeah,
also, they don't also have to be limited to their own, right, church boundaries, because what I've also seen is that that could be an echo chamber.
yeah,
That could be an echo chamber, because
yeah,
there was someone I was talking to some weeks ago, and she was literally going through some type of faith crisis in a way, and it's really rooted to the religious practices that she was immersed in her childhood, that was wrong, was the wrong doctrine. So
yeah,
in adulthood now, she's having to search through. And so part of it also, when Bible talks about search the scripture, search it for yourself. Don't just listen to one person every day as your only source of inspiration. That also is something that digital allows us to do, to break out of an echo chamber where you're only hearing the same thing every single day, and the mindset of those people is setting your life and orienting you, right? If
yeah,
you have a fantastic pastor, fantastic. but I don't think everybody does have that. So that's
mm,
also the value of online. So
mm,
you can hear that I'm an advocate.
yeah,
I'm a huge fan of the incredible access we have to incredible scholars, Bible scholars, that can now educate us, inform us, guide us. That is not just at the local level. Never ignore the local assembly, like to your point, right? Go in there. It's powerful. There's something you're not never going to get online that happens in the physical local assembly. But definitely for daily discipline, daily practices, you can have access to all kinds of journals, all kinds of prayer, all kinds of resources. And in a way, it's like a buffet, and then it also hopefully matures us to think about what we're thinking, and also explore what we're believing, and put it next to the scripture, and see if those who are leading us, they're leading us right. And the reason I'm so passionate about this is that when you think about the children of Israel, the
mm,
12 spies,
mm,
okay, these were leaders that were unselected to go into the promised land,
yeah,
okay, and to explore the promised land, all of God's promises, and to bring back reports.
yeah,
10 of them brought reports of fear.
yep,
So that's what I mean, is that be careful. And I've seen this too many times, of people absorbing doctrines of fear.
mm,
Right? You can get faith now in abundance. So that's one thing I'm very particular about, leadership in the
mm,
church. And the Bible clearly told us those 10 spies brought the hand of that generation in living in the promise. They were leaders,
mm,
right? And those two leaders that had the promise of faith, people didn't listen to them. And I think that is also happening today. So we have to
yeah,
think through, for those who are leaders in the church, right? Are you sharing the gospel of faith, or are you imposing your own fears and limitations on your people?
mm,
But again, I'll leave that aside. But that's where I'm very, very appreciative of the ability for people now to just let God guide them into different access of leadership. So that's where that is coming from. Go ahead, please.
sorry, what is the question?
No, in terms of your thoughts on what I just shared, in terms of leadership in the church,
Yeah,
right? Because your book is definitely offering people for themselves to explore the history of Bible for themselves.
yeah,
That's one of the things I really want people to, I encourage people to do as well. Search the scriptures for yourself,
yeah,
because we've entered a time where it's not what your pastor said or this
yeah,
person said, right? The gospel and its message is for the soul of self, it's for the saving of the self, right? So
yeah.
how do you personalize it? How do you really get to understand God's move in your own life, what he's doing in and through you, what he wants to do in and through you and for you, at this time? So I'm just asking in terms of your thoughts on that.
Oh, yes, definitely. Lots of people have unbiblical beliefs because of their pastors or the churches they go to, and they don't realize it. And well, it can be hard, I know, for
Mhm,
people to come out of it, even when you try explaining to them how it's unbiblical.
mm,
Um, but we always need to remember to go back and look at the Bible and really examine it, because sometimes pastors may even take verses out of context and convince you something is biblical. So
mm,
it's always important to go back to the Bible. And as you said, listening to different preachers is definitely very good. And also, I think researching about different people's views on different believers' views on different topics and why they believe what they believe, why people people agree with you and people disagree with you, and
mm,
sometimes you may end up changing your mind. I
mm,
know this has happened to me before. I have done a lot of research on theology on
mm.
different topics. So, yeah, I think it's important to do that as well.
Wow. I love that. I think this is a great place for us to wrap up the interview. And so I want to thank you so much. The thoughts you just shared is really such a great one for us to reflect, and also to continue to seek to understand for ourselves what God is doing in and through us and for us. So let me ask you once again, just tell the viewers again your book and where they can find your book as well.
My book is called Zebedee's Calling: A Hero's Quest for the Word, and you could purchase it on Cars Publishing or Amazon or Goodreads or Barnes and Noble or Indigo or Walmart.com and other sites.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Yeah, congratulations again on putting your thoughts together for the world. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
You're welcome.